welcome back to the Pride of Irons YouTube channel. We're here for another episode of the really poorly named Rival Views. This week we have Rishi from Fox's Pride. I almost said Proud Foxes. Fox's Pride. To talk about the game this weekend against Leicester. We missed that one last week. We couldn't get hold of anyone from Wolves, and maybe I should stop doing these because we had quite a good result. But let's see how we get on. So, Rishi, thank you for joining us. How's it going on your end?
Yeah, really good, Jim. Thanks for having us on. It's a shame we can't see you at the King and welcome you guys to the King Power on Sunday, but 12 o'clock would have been an early kickoff anyway for us all.
Yeah, I mean, if this wasn't going on, I suppose it wouldn't be a 12 o'clock kickoff. But yeah, the match day routine is somewhat different right nowadays. Are you guys still keeping up to date with each other? You know, keeping up to date, hanging out on Zoom, doing all that kind of stuff pre-match?
We've done a few Zooms. I think there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue at the moment, and there's a little bit of we've all had these all day at work, so it's been a bit harder to get the same enthusiasm as we had. But there's a lot of WhatsApp chat. I think that's sort of surpassed some of it when we don't want to be on screens. But I think it's all shifting a little bit because everyone's still buzzing from last Sunday's massive win, and I think we're going to get a bit more enthusiastic about being top of the league for a few more days.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Trying to find that way of being excited about football again with people, even though you're not with people. It's certainly a time to be a bit more creative, I guess. And I get you for Zoom fatigue. I'm the same throughout work, and we're doing this now on Zoom. But hopefully soon we'll all be hanging out together in pubs again, and going to matches. Fingers crossed. So the first question I've got for you today, I think it's probably a pretty easy one. You've alluded it to there. What have you made of your start to the season?
It's completely surpassed all our expectations. I mean, to be fair, every Leicester fan was coming into the season with a bit of trepidation. We ended last season, that end of season all felt really weird. It was all a bit surreal. We went to the games. People like you and I are season ticket holders. It's strange not watching on telly when you're like, this is not what I normally do. And it was just a whimper, to miss out on the Champions League positions at the end. I mean, now that we're going to be missing out on it anyway, it feels a little bit less terrible to not be drawn in a cool group. But the team has surpassed all our expectations. The result against Man City has us all buzzing. I mean, we've had some good results against Man City in recent years. It's not quite as much of a shock, but it just feels a bit annoying to not have been there, given I've been there the last 5 seasons in a row.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to find something to get excited about, though, right? I mean, I know it's so congested at the moment, being so early in the season. Our win at the weekend took us from 18th, I think, at kickoff to 12th when the third goal went in, and then to 10th when the fourth went in. So it is that congested, but I think it's that time of the season where you should start getting your phone out and taking screenshots of the league table whenever you're doing well. And now's a good time for you guys, right?
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's been buzzing about that, but also I think tomorrow we've got the Europa League draw, which is something that I don't think I'd be quite as excited about, but it's a little bit of a mixed feeling. We won't be travelling to anywhere, but it'll be exciting to be in Europe, and Thursday nights we'll have something booked for most of the rest of this.
Well, there you go. If we can't go outside, at least you'll have something preoccupying you throughout the week. I mean, we did have, the cup games were quite nice for the few that we won. Unfortunately, last night was not the best, but hey, you can't win them all, especially if you don't make any fucking subs. Anyway, so something I always ask people on here is, how do Leicester fans feel about the management of the club? I know it's a bit of a weird thing to ask, but I think given clubs' identities vary in many ways, and I think a lot of the time it's based around who's managing at that time.
So, I mean, obviously, we really love our owners, and our owners have been super kind and super gentle. I mean, even the close season, they were sending us all gifts and stuff. I think my boyfriend was getting rather annoyed with the amount of flags and clappers that I have lying around the house. But so we're very lucky, and they're obviously running a duty-free business. It's not the best time for cash flow, given that none of us are going anywhere. But so I think they've been really thoughtful, and some of the messages from the club have been just wonderful. If you'd asked me this 9 months ago, Brendan Rodgers was the Messiah and he could do no wrong. Obviously, we started the season really well, but falling out of the Champions League places after having been there all season, there's a little bit of that in the back of our memories. Obviously, we've signed a couple of players now. It looked at the beginning of the season, it felt a bit ropey because we hadn't signed anyone. We desperately needed a centre back, having lost Harry Maguire, we hadn't really replaced him, and then with Ben Chilwell moving on, now Stania came in. And Fofana hopefully will sign, but we've been a bit worried about our squad, and particularly going into the Europa League when you've got a lot, and the fixture list feels quite intense. I don't know how you're finding it. Just feels like, okay, I do love it at the moment because we're doing so well, but I'm like, do I really want to see 2 games a week for the whole rest of this year?
Well, I guess the congestion as well. You've got obviously Europa League, you've got domestic cups, but I think they want to finish the season on schedule, don't they? So the actual typical fixture list is also compressed for the itself. But again, gives us something to do when we can't do anything else. So looking to the game this weekend, how do you expect to line up versus West Ham?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he'll change it back to sort of 4-5-1 formation versus the slightly more defensive back 5. We sort of back 5 turning into 3. He lined up against Man City where we were playing more counter-attacking. Given we're at home, it feels weird. It's a home game. But I was like, is it a home game? It doesn't really. There is no such thing as a home game, even if it's our home stadium. Home game is one I'm sat in my seat in, so it doesn't feel like a home game. The sofa has become our new seats. It will be, so Evans is back, so Anchu will start with Castagna and Justin almost certainly. I think it'll be interesting to see whether Under, who's our new winger, will start. I suspect he will come on rather than start for Perez. And I think the other question that's out is still whether Maddison will start. So Maddison's been getting 30-40 minutes games. And in the last couple of games, he's not been entirely fit. But I am excited because our midfield our 3 Belgian diamonds have been playing beautifully, and there's been some, you can tell they play together for a national team because the interplay has been wonderful, and we've actually been fun to watch, which is great again.
And then that's such an important thing. I think it's pretty obvious how we're going to line up. We found our first 11 more or less, but seeing the teams being a joy to watch the last week against Wolves, no one saw that coming at all. But it was the way we played. It was the way we moved the ball around. It just wasn't West Ham. It came out of the blue. I fully expected, looking at the line of fixtures we've got coming up, that we wouldn't have a point by the end of October. But instead, that was a wonderful surprise. But it was good to see the players playing the way they were, with a lot of freedom. They obviously were very relaxed. Compare that to the first game against Newcastle, where I think a lot of the heads had dropped because of the whole situation around Diangana, and Mark Noble had spoken out against the ownership a little bit on that regard, and it felt like it affected the whole team. And then after that seemed like our first, winnable one, and then we had this run. But the system's clearly working for the first team, and I think I liked what he was doing in terms of playing Anderson and Allaire in the cup games and giving them a little bit of confidence, playing against lower league opposition, getting some goals in, and obviously bringing on Allaire against Wolves towards the end, him getting a goal. I hope that's the start of something, but I think it's pretty clear he's probably going to be starting with Antonio up front, and fingers crossed that he's kind of created that same feeling, or that transformation with Antonio as he did with Arnautovic previously, and we see plenty of goals. That being said, Antonio's 30, and he runs a lot. His hamstrings could go any minute, and that's my biggest fear.
Just how are you guys feeling about your owners? Because you had a bit of beef last season? And I did notice Mark Noble's comments. I thought that was interesting. That was quite from your club captain and all.
I try to not be too. I'm definitely not pro. I'm not singing their praises, but at the same token, I don't want to become another shouting voice in the crowd, because I think all too easy then your whole opinion and your perspective and how you come across, people can try and tag that to the bad feeling. But I do think that time is up on them. They said themselves, we're not Russian oligarchs, we're not sheikhs from the Middle East or whatever. And if you're saying you can't or you won't compete financially, then you shouldn't be in the business of running a football club, because it's not a money-making exercise. It is what it is, So I think for their own good, as well as the good of the club, they should be selling to people who are willing to make that investment. But the situation is what it is. They own the club. I think there's a clause in place which means they're unlikely to sell for the next 2 to 3 years.
Is that about the London Stadium stuff, or is that
It's no, they had a deal with I don't know if it's with the local authority or the government, but yeah, if they sell before a certain date, then a percentage of the profit on the club has to go back to whoever. So they lose up to £60 million, I think it is. But then if you look at how much realistically you have to pump into a club to keep it competing over the next 3 years, I mean, you work in banking, right? So I think they should cut their losses now, sell the club, and then invest all their money in the markets, which have gone through the floor, because they're more likely to make money coming back. But hey ho, that's talking shop a little bit. So back to.
No one invests in the football club to make money. I mean, clearly, I think it's obvious that it's a complete cash sink rather than a cash cow. So.
Yeah, it's a rich man's plaything, and we've known that for some time. But now it's become a very, very, very rich man's plaything, or I should say, rich person's plaything. But going back to the squads, and we talk about how we set up. Who do you think will be dangerous for? Let's start with West Ham. If there's one player that, I mean, if I ask this question the other way around, if there's one player that we could take from you guys, I think I'd find it difficult because there'd be so many to pick from. If I ask you, it may be difficult because there's so few. But if there was one player from West Ham who you would take, who would it be?
Oh, I mean, the one thing I feel we lack a little bit. It's quite a young. It feels like Leicester is a very young team and young squad, and we don't sometimes have the bite in the midfield. So even though Martin Odegaard's not necessarily the most technically perfect player, but I like his battle, I like his fight. He does tend to score against us, which is a bit annoying. But he's someone there. I mean, is Declan Rice stayed with you guys in the end?
So far,
I mean, he's obviously a talent as well. Though I think, I mean, actually, that's one area we're not really short in. I don't think you have any centre backs or forwards that I'm really desperate to nick off. Yeah.
And I mean, for us, I think just looking at them out. I mean, I could pick any number of players, but I think the one that's probably sticks the most is Vardy, just for the number of goals he's had over the number of seasons. And I think some time back we had the opportunity to sign him years back and said no because who's this guy? Oh, he's only the guy who's going to end up scoring a bag for against you in the future. But so at the weekend then, who's going to be your biggest threat to against West Ham?
You're not alone in the Vardy bit. I mean, I think he scores a hatful against everyone. I think Man City and Pep must be sick of the sight of him. But I'll be completely honest. When I saw his debut at Torquay away in the League Cup stages many moons ago, I was like, "What have we spent £1 million on this for?" So I'm happy to be proven completely wrong. And so I think for this game, I think Barnes has just been called up to the England squad, so I think he'll be buzzing. I think there's a half chance of him. He's been playing well anyway. I mean, Tielemans and the trio of Belgians just playing beautifully, and you'll see this on Sunday. And obviously, Vardy is danger man. It's funny for us to look at him as an older man, because we're both.
He's doing the job.
Yeah, absolutely doing the job. And I think we've got a good 2 more seasons out of him as well. And I mean, just the rate at which he scores and what he does with so few touches, he's just magic. I read his autobiography over last year, and just remember thinking, like, it's amazing your story to come from literally non-league and to be like a top Premier League striker. I think people, the way the media represent stuff, it's always about Aguero, it's always about big 4 players. Vardy has been the best striker, one of the best 3 strikers in the Premier League for the last 3 years for sure, and never gets any of the plaudits. It's all about Kane and whatnot. And interesting big club.
I like that. I like that story. Regardless of whether it's one of our players or not, I love that whole story of a player coming from seemingly, the kind of football that people disregard, and then going, well, no, I'm gonna work hard and I'm gonna fight my way through, and I'm gonna work my way to the very, very top and become one of the best. And I think that's the kind of romantic thing that we all like to latch on to, but also it's a really positive message, right? It doesn't matter where you are. There's always the potential to push your way to the top if you really want it.
One of the train journeys back from the King Power, so I live in London like you, but it doesn't feel quite like a glory hunting fan like some of the others, but you live where you live. but I met a film crew who'd been filming for the film they want to make about Jamie Vardy and his story, and I do hope they make it one day, because I just think it is, especially in these times when everything's so depressing, it's quite nice to have a sort of rags to riches and sort of positive story that anyone can make it, even later on in life as well. I love that.
I mean, I would watch it purely if they included the Wagatha Christie scenario. I've got to say, Jamie Vardy is not my favourite Vardy. It's got to be Rebecca.
Yeah, I still don't fully understand what on earth was going on with all that, but you know
what? I think it's got a way to go, yeah, because it sounds like it's gonna go to the courts. Look, let's flip it the other way though. Which West Ham player do you think is going to be a danger against you guys?
Oh, really hard to say, actually. I mean, you obviously had a good performance against Wolves. I didn't watch Match of the Day on Saturday, so I'm actually not sure who played well. I guess Noble always scores against us, or tends to score against us, I think, once a year without fail. Normally penalties. Do
you know what? He was, I don't know if he still is, but he was ranked 4th best penalty taker in Europe, because he very, very rarely misses. He's very good at those, but doesn't score many from open play.
And I guess, you tell me, who do you think will be dangerous on Sunday?
Look, at the moment, it's got to be, Antonio and Bowen, I think.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a few. So you've got Antonio and Bowen, who are just, they go with such pace. And I really like Bowen because he gets kicked all over the place, but he just fights through, he gets up. Antonio can seemingly, drag a ball through past 5 guys and, still have it somehow stuck to his foot. Traditionally, his problem is he does all the hard work and then blasts over from 6 yards. But he does seem to have, since the restart, found his form. The other one is Souček. He's been fantastic since he came in on loan. Just such a threat, just charges in to a cross and just hammers it home with his head. So there's a few. I'd like to see Antonio gets. So go on.
Where's Souček on loan from?
No, we've got him now, permanent.
Oh,
was Prague, yeah. Yeah, it became permanent for this season. So there was an option, or it was a condition that if we stayed up, that we signed him. So we have. Yeah, fantastic players. There's a few there, but I'd like to see Antonio get a goal. I'd like to see this be his season where he really, like I say, he's 30. It'd be good for him to have a good solid season of proving what he can do. Because he's another one. He came from non-league football, then went to Southampton when they were in the lower leagues, came to us from Nottingham Forest, and another one who's just worked hard. Kept his head down, worked hard.
You've now guaranteed us Leicester fans won't like him because he's a Forest lad. That's not good.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forget it's from that part of the world, right? So moving on then. So if we look to let's look ahead of the game just for a moment. Where do you realistically? Let's say 2 things. Where do you realistically see yourselves finishing, and where is it you think you can finish? Do you think you can do it again?
So I think we'll finish top 6 again if we can keep the form. I think we need 2 more players. We've lost Wilfred Ndidi for 12 matches, at least 12 weeks, which is going to be a real. We clearly didn't have a big enough squad at the end of the run-in last season when we were Chilwell out injured, Maddison out injured, and we don't have that depth in squad. And the youth players are not all quite there. There's quite a bit of a gap from Premier League first team status and to make top 6. I think we do have enough in the tank to make top 6 again. And what I'd love us to do is to be in the Champions League again and be able to go next year. I mean, it's
let's hope anyone can go next year. Let's just hope it's all sorted by then. Fingers crossed for the vaccine. Honestly, put banter to one side for a moment. Honestly, where do you see West Ham finishing this season?
I think you're lucky this season because there are a lot worse clubs and teams. So I think you'll be comfortably mid-bottom half of the table, and if you have a good run, maybe lower top half of the table if you're lucky. But there are just some, Fulham are going down. I think they just lost to Brentford, and I was skimming the results earlier. I appreciate it's the Haribo Cup, but I mean, still they look like they're going down without trace. So I think I don't think relegation's the same threat as it has been in previous seasons for you this year.
I'll take that, and with Fulham, it's nice to see Scott Parker. I think I've always liked him not just as a player, but I think as a human being. I think he's just got this air of sort of calm dignity about him. And seeing him, seeing some of his press conferences and stuff, he clearly cares a lot about the game. I've seen some funny ones where they've put his kind of monologues over the top of some music by The Streets and a few other things, and it works quite well. But yeah, I'm glad to see him taking his step into management and in the Premier League.
I don't think anyone dislikes Fulham. It's just, I mean, they just look woefully unequipped. I mean, if you're getting smashed by Brentford, and I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, Sheffield United being the one that shocked me this season. They were so tight at the back and really a very good team. They were very. We did beat them, but I think we beat them home and away. But it was tough. You were in a game. It wasn't easy. And to see them with 0 points on the board, and also being Burnley, I expected Burnley not getting anything. Sean Dyche is nothing if not a scrapper.
So another question before we get to the final one about this weekend's match. I always asked opposition fans what their club's fans think of West Ham. So when we spoke to Joe, he said, with Arsenal, I think there's that whole super intense thing of Arsenal fans, and Arsenal fan TV builds up a certain picture about people. And he said, for Arsenal's point of view, we're not Spurs essentially, so they don't mind us. I know some clubs like us a lot less than others. Do we even register on Leicester's radar?
So I guess, it used to be when you were in your old state, the Berlin Ground, it was really, we'd only won 2 games at the Berlin Ground in 50 years. It would always been an absolute, it's West Ham again. And on away days, it always felt like that. I think
that's kind of depressing that you're saying that, and now it's going to be the opposite.
Oh yeah, I think we've won more than half. We've got more than 50% win rate at the London Stadium. To be fair, we've been better this return to the Premier League. But I went to I think it was 2001 roughly, or early 2000s. I saw us first time in 40 odd years we'd won at the Berlin Ground, and I think we won in the last season. But it'd been 3 in 50 is pretty good going for you West Ham fans. But I think you don't really it's not a club that we have strong feelings of. I think what has struck strong feelings is that the London Stadium is probably one of the least favourite away days, just because of. And this, we've tried to meet up for a pint at different times because of where you guys meet up for a drink, and where we're trying to come in from logistics, and it's nothing personal, Jim, but we've just not been able to get, and because the travel and transport logistics make it so difficult to have any atmosphere around there.
Yeah, no, I completely get that, and one of the things I like that they've done recently in recent seasons is they've got the outside areas now with the bars that go around, and you can go out there at half time, and you can go there before the match now, and they've got entertainment, they've got music, they've got some guy just crooning from the back of a van. But it does have, it's not a pub, it's by no means a pub, but it's got it's something somewhere for you to go, somewhere to have a drink, somewhere to have a mingle before the game. So maybe we'll catch you at some point in the future outside the London Stadium. Probably not this season. From West Ham's perspective, I think looking at Leicester, we're looking with envy on how we should be running our club. Essentially, you're a well-run club. You buy well. I think principle-wise, you're kind of doing everything the right way. And sometimes we just look in the mirror and think, how are we where we are? I don't think we're a big club. I don't like the idea of big club mentality. I think when the club gets to that stage where its fans are thinking of that, it gets arrogant. But I think we are a well supported club. I think we're in terms of global recognition, probably not massive, but still people know who we are. And I think we should be doing the name of the club much better than we are currently. And that's not a knock to the players and their efforts, but I just think there's something wrong with the strategy.
Do you think it's related to the stadium move? Because
that would be an easy out to say it's to do with the stadium. This is, I think we got lucky last season. I think maybe we were swept up in the romance of it a bit. We had a former player managing us in Bilic. We had Payet which made all of the difference. He was that good. But it's always been. I mean, people talk about the London stadium's quiet. Upton Park could be devastatingly quiet at times, and I've heard London Stadium roar not very often, but I have. There's something not quite right in the DNA of the club at the moment, and that's really what it boils down to, in my opinion. But look, we look at you guys with envy, and we wish we were running this in the same way.
I must admit, yeah, I don't like people. But people, it's funny because you only remember the games you have been at other people's stadia, and it's funny because how much we say the London Stadium's quiet, then the media like to call it quiet. I think we won 3-2 in the end, but there was a game where it was so loud because I think we were 2-0 up or 3-0 up or 2-1 up or something like that, and because it was very loud when you scored, and when you were pushing for an equaliser, anyone who said it was a quiet stadium was completely mistaken. I think it's just the overall experience. I mean, I was sat on the back row. I mean, as I was watching on telly and felt the same view.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm on row 30, I think. I've got a really, really good view. But I think that stadium could be much better. I think a new owner, potentially, if they came in and bought the stadium as well as the club, and packed it all in the way it should be, I think it would be a fantastic stadium. But yeah, we are where we are. So let's finish up with the match this weekend. So finally, give me your predicted scoreline and your predicted goal scorers.
I'm going for a big 3-0, which sounds ridiculous to be predicting this. I would never have been predicting this at the beginning of the season, but just the way we're playing at the moment, the result on Sunday, and I'm going to put Barnes down for first goal scorer. Because he's scored against you before, I think, or last season, and I think he will be excited and buzzing from his England call-up. But no doubt there'll be a certain Jamie Vardy on the score sheet as well. Interested in your expectation.
Oh, I could easily see. I mean, I think there's some players that you look at them, you think you're going to score. So it used to be Lukaku every game. So we know he's going to score. So we know we need to score at least one to draw because we know Lukaku is going to score. Callum Wilson is another one. You know he's going to score. I said this to Ian before the Newcastle game. I hate to be right in this situation, but I was. So yeah, Vardy, you would imagine, would score. I struggle to be optimistic as a West Ham fan, but I'm gonna optimistically go for a 2-2, because I think this team has goals in it now, but I still think defensively we are a real mess at times. I mean, just target the right hand side, because our left back, typically, he's not been doing well recently. Cresswell since the restart. Masuaku is, the other option there. Very good going forward. Very good feet. He can stroll past, several players. But defensively, he's just so poor. So I'm going to go for a 2-2. I'm going to say for us, I'm going to say Bowen and Souček to score. Although I want Antonio too, I'm going to go for Bowen and Souček. Right, that's it. That's everything. So thank you very much for joining me today, Rishi. It's really nice talking to you. Good luck for the rest of the season, but obviously not this weekend.
Knew that was coming. No, pleasure to see you too, Jim. And I look forward to us being able to raise a pint again. I mean, hopefully we're going to miss it in the King Power Stadium, but with any luck, maybe some partial return to London Stadium. So I can't remember when we're playing later in the season again, but hopefully we'll get to have a beer together again because it feels so long.
Well, look, if it happens, then I'll make sure that I drag you guys down to. Actually, I don't drink beer anymore.
Yeah, I thought
mind you keep the moves out of the picture. But I'll take you to the little horse box bar where they've got all of the rums and all of the gins. That's my favourite place to stop by.
Oh, very good. I can handle a gin.
Oh well, I'm there. Right. Thanks very much. Take care, and I'll catch you all later.
Brilliant.